After the teeth segmentation step, we can now proceed with the virtual setup step. I mean the step in which we can start to move the teeth in order to obtain the best smile for our customer. So, clicking on this icon, we can enter in the virtual setup stage. You can see here in the main editing area the models. By default, you can see upper and lower simultaneously. You can move the models just interacting with the mouse, or you can use the icons available in the right side of the screen to quickly change the point of view. This can be really helpful because, for example, if we want to simulate some movements involving, for example, the posterior teeth, this can be very helpful because you see, just clicking this icon, I can, for example, select left side of the models. Just let me simulate some simple movements. You can see here in the left side of the screen that we have some icons that quickly allow to select some group of teeth. So, as you can see here, just clicking two icons, I can select all the posterior teeth. These allow, for example, to simulate really quickly some movements. Let me simulate, for example, a distalization in this moment. Just let me move again the window from this side. And now I will start to show you one of the possible ways to move the teeth. You will see during this video that we have several choices. One of the easier way, for example, to simulate a distalization could be just to enter here in a text, through a text field, a numerical value, and doing, for example, 1 millimeter of distalization, you can see immediately how the software performed the operation. The good thing of having, you see, quick ways to select the teeth is that in just few seconds I have performed the movement of posterior teeth, for example, without changing the occlusion between the teeth itself. Obviously, if I want, I can also select one tooth at a time, and I can perform movement involving only one tooth at a time. For starting from now, just let me work with one model at a time, just to focus on some of the details of the software. So, just let me show you, for example, what we have made now. So you will be able to see a first animation of our movement. So I have started, as I've told you, doing a distalization. I can also rename this first group of movement, just clicking here and assigning a name to my movements. Just let me show you now a simple animation of what we have made until now. So you will be able to see in this moment, you see, what we have made very easily. So the idea is that in this way I have performed a very controlled movement, in this case a distalization, with a very with a very short effort. Consider that I have now, for example, simulated the movement of the posterior teeth. But let me simulate now another group of movements. For example, just adding a new layer to this virtual setup. The layers are a very powerful tool that this software offers, because in this way I can assign a sequence to the movement that I want to perform. So in this case, for example, I have just started to perform a simulation doing a distalization. Now, for example, let me show you a movement involving only the anterior teeth. In order to do so a movement involving only the anterior teeth, I can easily create a new layer, clicking here. Let me, for example, rename also this layer. So now I will start to move the anterior teeth. So in this simple simulation, I have created some space in order to perform my movement. Now, for example, I could start to move the other teeth in order to obtain a better smile, let me say in this way, for our customer. Consider that, okay, I have selected, you see, only one tooth in this moment, and I have performed the movement using another approach. So I have just moved the tooth using the mouse. So I have basically moved my tooth using the mouse, and in the same way, just using the mouse, I can rotate the tooth with respect to the current view direction. Consider that so I can perform the movement using a numerical, the movement overview, and so I can specify the movement just changing, you see. I can perform a given kind of movement changing the number here. Otherwise, I can use the mouse. Finally, I could also use a manipulator to do the same kind of movement. So maybe using the manipulator, it's possible to perform a more controlled kind of movement. And you see, in this way, I have closed the space for this tooth. And so, in general, consider that I can use the 3 different ways to move the teeth simultaneously. I mean, I can use a combination of 3 different kind of movement. I can start with the manipulator. If I want, then I can perform another kind of movement using the keyboard. Finally, I can refine the movement using the mouse. So the software is very flexible in this from this point of view. Consider that until now I'm working without just using one single window. So you see, I'm working with the full editing area, showing just one model from one point of view. It's really helpful sometimes to split the screen, because the same movement that we have performed from a single point of view can, in this moment, perform it using more point of view. So, for example, you see, in this moment I am interacting with the right side of the screen, performing some movement. If I want, I can refine this kind of movement now, interacting in the left side of the screen. I can still use, for example, this tool, this icon, to select all the teeth simultaneously. And you see, I can move simultaneously in this moment the group of selected teeth. So you can do in a very simple way a movement in order to correct the position of our teeth in a very short time. Consider, okay, let me now go back to the main screen, because I want to show you, okay, I will show you now again a simulation of the animation, so you can appreciate the layers in this way. You can see now that during my simulation, I've started the movement of posterior teeth mainly. Then I have refined my virtual setup for the anterior teeth. In this moment, I'm playing the animation in loop. I have two different options to play in animation in loop or just a single cycle. Now we are showing the models with color. So this is the real color taken from the scanner. In this case, using a Medit scanner. In any moment, I can exclude the visualization of the texture color, and I can just see a simulation showing the teeth in white color and the gum in pink color. So the software also offers several options in terms of visualization. We can, in any moment, if we want, change the details of the visualization. So if I want just to focus on the teeth, you see I can change the transparency of some graphical elements. So in this way, I have the gum that is transparent. And here I have several kind of objects that I can visualize, that I can show during the virtual setup, and then can help me during the virtual setup itself. In particular, you see, we have performed all the movement without taking in account any kind of reference. If we want, it's really can be helpful to show, for example, what is the original tooth position. So in this moment, you can see that in yellow color, you can see which was the original tooth position. So you have also an option to see in a visual way which is the performed movement. So just in this moment, you can see that we have obtained maybe a better alignment for the teeth itself. Consider that another very interesting tool that this software offers in order to have maybe some reference during our virtual setup is the option to upload some pictures from the disk or from you see a library of previously imported pictures. So in this case, you see that I have an arch that I can superimpose to my models, and you can see that in this way this tool can be helpful to perform some alignment, having some reference on the model itself. You can see that the arch is more or less aligned to my model. I can still, you see, perform some adjustment. So in this way, you have a very powerful way to move the teeth in an expected position, assigning a shape. to my model, to assign a given shape to the alignment. So you see, consider that by default the software align the plane in this way, but if I, so in this case it's occlusal plane, but if I want, I can also change the plane. So if I have a picture that I want to, for example, a cephalometric picture of the patient, I can put on the screen in this way. And the software also allows to quickly focus only on a part of my model using some very helpful graphical options. So you can see that the software can be easy to use in terms of interaction, but it has a lot of tools that can help during the movement of the teeth, during all the stages of the virtual setup itself. Just consider, okay, that the software offers several other options. So in general, you can do with this software everything that you need in order to perform a virtual setup, in order to do aligners, or also other things like bracket placement, indirect bonding, and similar. For today, we could just focus on the clear aligner part of the software. Consider that, okay, we have seen how to move the teeth until now. I have started my movement doing a distalization, so doing the movement of upper and lower jaw simultaneously. Then for showing some feature, I have just selected the upper model and I have excluded the visualization of the lower. Obviously, I can in any moment see the lower and the upper simultaneously, but even if I work with one model at a time, you can consider that I can start, for example, clicking here, an evaluation of the contact points. What I mean is that the software can show you in real time, when doing the movements, what happens in terms of occlusion, in terms of contacts, with respect to the occlusal, to the antagonist model, and also in terms of contact that you can create with the neighbor teeth. So you can see here, for example, that performing my movements, I have made a contact of around 0.30 millimeters between tooth 11 and tooth 22. So you can see the red horizontal lines showing the amount of contact with respect to the neighbor teeth, the vertical lines showing the amount of contact with the antagonist model. So you can see here, and basically this one is the maximum amount of intersection. If you look here, you can see where the contact point happens. And so in this way, okay, I have the same visualization for the lower, and if I want, you see, just starting to move some teeth, you see that now the contact point change in terms of quantity. So the idea is that you can work simultaneously between upper and lower. or you can just use one model at a time, and you can still take in account for the contact point. You can see here in the left side that we have also a color map showing quickly the amount of contact that we have between, in this case, upper and lower, and also between neighbor teeth. So the software in this way shows only contact point bigger than 0.36 millimeters. So this is, if I want to refine my checks, you see, I can move this slider, and so I can see now also contact bigger than 0.24 millimeters. In this way, I can quickly select which are the contact points that can be interesting from my point of view, and exclude all the other contact points. Consider that another important thing that software allows to do is to use the attachments. So in order to perform some kind of movements, I have the option now to put some attachments on my model. We have a library of attachments. Basically, there are some predefined shapes that can be helpful to perform some kind of movements. Just let me select one shape. Clicking this icon, I can now, you see, putting the attachment on my tooth, and in a very simple way, I can interact with the attachment and I can change its shape. So you see, I can change position, thickness, orientation, angulation. I have a lot of freedom in terms of what I can do with the attachments. I can also, you see, after putting an attachment, changing its shape. And after selecting my preferred shape, I can do copy and paste on another tooth, you see. So the same shape can be quickly positioned on another tooth. So having the same dimensions and the same parameters that I have chosen previously. Consider that after positioning the attachments, I can still optimize the position, and I have also the option to put more attachment for a given tooth. For example, if I want, I can put another attachment here, and based on the movements that I want to perform, I can in this way select the attachment, the right attachment. Consider that the attachment can be also negative, so selecting this option, you can see that software basically put a negative attachment on the tooth. So this is a good way to perform pressure on the tooth. So in order to perform some kind of movements, so in this way you can easily simulate also buttons on the model. So you have, when you will print the model, you will have a concavity in correspondence of the negative attachments. Finally, just let me simulate one more thing during the virtual setup step. In particular, doing the movements, I have made, you see here, there is a small overlapping between the anterior teeth, for example. I have previously measured this overlapping. It is around 0.30 millimeters, for example. After measuring the overlapping, if I want to simulate an interproximal reduction, I can just click on the tooth that for which I want to apply the interproximal reduction. I can simulate the interproximal reduction in this way. So I have selected my teeth. I can write here the amount of expected stripping, interproximal reduction. Here I can just, you see, apply the operation, and software put here a label showing that here I need to perform an interproximal reduction. So during this video we have seen what are the tools that software offers. Obviously, there are a lot of more options, but in order to focus also on other details of the typical workflow that we can follow in order to make the aligner, we will now assume that this is the end part of our setup. So we have obtained our perfect smile, and we will move now on another step of the typical workflow, that is choosing how many models we need in order to obtain our treatment. So we will choose during the models builder step how many models we need to perform our treatment.